Biden administration wants to build a new, more modern nuclear gravity bomb. It would be more powerful than the bombs dropped on Japan during World War II. For this bomb to be built, it would need authorization from Congress and funding. Now, neither were in the latest defense package. NewsNation's Rich Bodee learned more about how this bomb works from a former naval officer.
The two weapons that were dropped on Japan at the end of World War II. One was uranium, one was plutonium.
And that's what about 20 kilotons of TNT looked like at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Now the Department of Defense wants to build a new gravity bomb almost 20 times more powerful.
You can imagine what these might do in a populated area.
Take New York City. An immediate impact here decimates lower Manhattan, and effects of radiation would be felt in parts of Brooklyn. The blast radius extends around 10 miles to Newark. Now, a gravity bomb is simply dropped from a bomber. Instead of drag parachutes, though, new models have tail fins for precision strikes. The DoD's announcement cited, quote, growing threats from potential adversaries, though it added there was, quote, no specific current event for the bomb's development.
They are looking for a weapon that could be used to attack hardened targets or, targets that are beneath the surface. I think of a command, control, and communications center that might be built in a bunker system well below the ground.
Monsignor Stuart Swetland is a U.S. Naval Academy graduate who taught military ethics and worked aboard a nuclear submarine. He's the current president of Donnelly College. Swetland says this bomb can penetrate the Earth, producing ground shock coupling. That's when the explosion creates a seismic force capable of destroying a structure while limiting fallout. But radioactive material would still reach the atmosphere. The 2023 Nuclear Posture Review was released in October and labeled China and Russia as nuclear adversaries. Iran and North Korea were also mentioned. The DoD's press release says the B-6113 wouldn't increase the number of nuclear weapons, but would phase out some old ones, something the Biden administration has pledged to do.
When I was in the military at the end of the Cold War, depending on which numbers you look at, there was about 70,000 nuclear weapons. Depending on where you look now, between 12 and 13,000 nuclear weapons exist in the world. So that's a significant reduction.
And we thank Rich Bodee for that excellent report. Joining us now to talk more about this new bomb and what it means for the U.S. is nuclear engineer and retired Navy Captain Brent Sadler. Captain Sadler, it's good to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening. Thanks for having me back.
So the U.S. says that this new weapon would give the military more options. Is this a good thing in your eyes? Tell us why we shouldn't be concerned about mutually assured destruction.
Well, sadly, I think we have to be worried about mutually assured destruction still. Russia really hasn't changed too much since the fall of the Soviet Union, at least from the strategic nuclear threat. And our problems have actually multiplied with China, North Korea, and soon perhaps also Iran. So the number of targets and the number of players that we have to deter actually has multiplied fourfold. And so the problem's a lot more complex. And while this gravity bomb, which you have to be able, the key question is, how do you get it over a target? And these players that I've mentioned, China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran, all have very highly capable air defenses. So you have to be able to sneak in to drop this kind of weapon. And as your earlier commentator said, going after those deeply buried targets is probably what it's going to be designed to do. And the president needs more options. At the same time, our arsenal really hasn't been invested in, and it's coming to the end of its life. And so we need to bring new systems just to replace those that are aging out.
Who concerns you the most right now when it comes to a nuclear adversary? I know you mentioned North Korea, Russia, Iran. Who are you focused on right now?
Well, there's two things. I think first and foremost, it's China, because China has doubled down in its investments. It tripled the size of its nuclear arsenal, its ICBMs. These are the silos that most people think of with a hair trigger. And they're also in the process of changing their nuclear posture to a launch-on threat, which is very threatening and very unstable. It's the circumstances that we lived under in the Cold War. But it's really the other part of it is the cumulative effect. The United States has to deter all of these adversaries, and the range of targets geographically is so spread that our arsenal just can't cover all this as it was originally designed against the Soviet threat. So we're still adapting to the world that it is, not the one that we had hoped the last time we made a posture decision in 2010.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.